Welcome back to another episode of The Forge, where two enter. One leaves champion, and one leaves beaten, battered, and bruised. Today, we bring to you two top-level tournament players. We have EvilWeevil 666. He's so evil, he added the 666 just to make sure you knew. And he is a three-time champion and a two-time reigning King of the Hill champion. Not to mention all the other great things he's done within the game. He is certainly a force to be reckoned with. And his opponent is not one reign, not two reign, not even three reign. He is Tetrarain, recently taking second out of qualifier, bucking the trend in that tournament of using UN with Deathweaver Lotus. He said, luck, Deathweaver and luck, I don't need that. I'll throw a Devour in your face and some other good stuff. So he is here to challenge EvilWeevil and knock him off his pedestal and take his rightful place as the champion of the Forge. Alright. And we don't have Jake today. He's gone. We don't know what happened to him. Got lost at a bus stop, perhaps. And in his place, we have Hectares, maybe best known for subbing for me on my stream on Friday. But I sure hope not, because he's a top-level player in his own right. He is a fine streamer and a gentleman, and I have no idea if he's a scholar. But let's go ahead and move on to the list. So, let's take a look at this list, Hectares. We've got EvilWeevil's list. This is going to look really different to those of you who were on the stream last week, because he decided to make 0 changes to his deck. EvilWeevil basically did this. He said, listen, the gauntlet's been thrown down. I've got the unbeatable list. Bring it. Bring it on. You know my list. I don't care. What do you think, Hectares? What do you think of the moxie of this young man to bring the same list twice?
I think he's got the right idea. I think he'll King of the Hill with EvilWeevil and the same list makes for a very exciting take this guy down format.
That's for sure. I think we should have widely published this and told Tetrarain exactly what list he was going to bring, just to see how good this list really is. But I think we saw last week, keys to the list, Gargoyle, Sentinel, get the blowouts rolling. You get the occasional blowout with the Aegis Knight. Every now and then, maybe you'll see a Vault Blockade pop out as a removal option. And he's got the flexible list. So we saw last week in the mirror, Hans went much more the straight AU killer list. EvilWeevil said, psh, I don't care. I'm playing the flexible list. I still take you down. What do you think, Hectares? Do you think this more flexible list with like a Justicar and a Gemhide Basher is a better approach than more of like just packing it with great AU cards?
Well, I think the several blowouts in this deck, the Sentinel, the Aegis Knight, Nexus Tech for a health blowout, the Vault Blockade just as that one single lane blowout, in addition to a little bit of flexibility with the Justicars, works really well.
And I gotta say, I'm gonna give you the credit here, Hectares. I thought Warmonger Mod was a terrible card. You showed me a couple times it's not a terrible card. And so my thought is, I like 2 in these decks. 1 makes me a little nervous. I really love 2 Warmonger Mods. What do you think? Do you think 1 is enough in this list?
He'll probably know how to use it. Certainly from the previous matches with this list, he's put it to its through its paces. But I personally like having 3 in the deck, just for that single turn where you can play 2 at once and just end the game.
You are a greedy man, my friend, and I applaud you for it. All right, well, let's take a look at the challenger, Tetrarain. Now, I got to admit, when Tetrarain sent me this list, I sent him an immediate email and said, Tetrarain, are you confident in this list, or is this just like a pile of legendaries that you got in a pile, you threw them together and said, I'm going to play as many legendaries as I can, son? He emailed me back and he said, it's a good list, trust me. And then I ran into him in the queue like 2 seconds later, and he demolished me. And I said, huh, you know what? Maybe this random assortment of legendaries is pretty darn good. What do you think, Hectares?
This is an interesting list for me. I've put together something not too far off from this, although certainly less legendary heavy, with the idea that you can get activations out of the Braxis to just double anything on the board, much like the Warmonger mod, and just also have that that nice play between Korok and some of your underdrops. So here, I think he's got an interesting list, though I agree, it is a little wild.
Yeah, I don't even really know how to evaluate it, to be perfectly honest. It's just like a pile of random stuff that apparently after testing works well together. My problem with, like, you could say, well, Korok and Abraxas work really well because Korok helps Abraxas be active. But the problem with that is everything's under-leveled then, right? So it would be on level 2, your Abraxas level 1 can double your under-leveled guys the moment he comes out. So I don't feel like there's a lot of great synergy between those two cards. Abraxas in general makes me nervous. I feel like he's just a card waiting to be removed and get nothing out of. I don't really like Eidolon, especially in a deck that's not exploiting somehow those drops. I feel like just getting a bunch of random 1/1s on the board doesn't do that much. Tell me, Hectares, tell me what I'm missing here.
Well, I think to keep in mind, part of this, the core of this deck is the Patriarch, Thundersaur, Roar, Gemhide, Basher, which are mirror cards for in the Aegis Knight list as well. So those 4 cards happen to have the right mix of utility and just raw power value. And I think mixing in other cards around those, for example, Koroks to make your other underdrops stronger when they come into play, or something like the Scatter Spore play where you can take the token and turn it into a finisher of like the end, the last part of a creature. I think those are really strong, and the key to the deck is making the right decisions at the right times.
Yeah, I could see that being the key. We'll have to see if he's able to. I'm really interested to talk to Tetrarain about this deck because I think this is the craziest list we've seen on the Forge to date. I mean, there's been some lists that I haven't thought were great, but I've at least known how to evaluate them. This list, I just look at it and I kind of go, I don't know what to say. This list is madness. I mean, I like it. I like madness when it does well. It's a little scary. Let's go ahead and bring in our first, our champion, I guess we should call him, right? Our champion. All right, EvilWeevil. I love that you're so evil you had to add the 666. That's by far my favorite part of your name. But how you doing, EvilWeevil? What caused you to bring such a new deck this week?
It's the best deck. I feel like it has the best sort of matchups against any deck. Like, you don't have any just awful matchups, and you have the potential to just randomly get draws that can't lose. Like, some decks try to execute one game plan, and if you fail, you're just done. I think this deck, the most powerful things you can do are equally powerful, but also it's so consistent.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, you can just get, Gargoyle plus Sentinel and just randomly win games, and then you can also, like, all your cards kind of do the same thing, and you have a lot of redundancy, and you don't have any really specific weaknesses. So.
All right, so my question for you is, are you this confident that you feel like you don't even care if your opponent knows that you like this deck? It's so good, and you're so good with it, you can just roll it out and steamroll them anyway.
I feel a little bit like that. I mean, I don't think that anyone's gonna be gutsy enough to, like, totally try to game it, because I didn't play this deck the first time I was on, so, and I don't think with this deck that you really can do that. Like, that's a little bit what I was saying. Like, if I was playing Yetis every time, someone just shows up with zombies and I lose. But
Sure.
I don't really think there's a deck like that for this matchup. I don't know.
Okay. All right, well, what's your prediction today? Do you think you're going to be able to win?
Yes. I don't know. I mean, his deck is kind of an unknown quantity. And it looks a little weird, but, like, he's playing a million good cards. Like, I could just lose to Thundersaur or Patriarch. So, I don't think that...
That's a profound silence. I like it. I think we might have lost him. So we're going to say he thinks he's going to win handily. And he does need to reshare his screen since he got disconnected. Well, let's go ahead and bring our second player in. Let's get Tetrarain's music going here. All right, Tetrarain, welcome to the show. And what's going on here? Did you just find all your favorite legendaries and put them in a deck?
I've been running something like this a while ago, and after seeing Hectares run a similar list, which he calls like hipster animals, I kind of fused the two lists together.
Wait. So you're gonna give Hectares some credit for this list? That's a really wise strategy, because then if it tanks, you can be like, it's all Hectares' fault. I don't know what he's doing. That guy's terrible.
No, never, because like I altered his list, so it'd be my fault for altering it.
Ah, okay. But you've made it better, right? You took, because Hectares makes like lists, and you took an list and said, I'm gonna make it amazing, right?
Definitely.
All right, so what's going on here? Like, why choose all these different cards to work together? Like, Eidolon looks kind of random. I mean, how are you playing Scorchmanes, or just greedily playing them to the board at times when you feel like a matchup gives you this room? Explain to me why some of these choices are in the deck.
Mostly I took the deck as kind of like a Yeti deck without the Yetis, with only having Warlord. So you have all the you have Warlord to really deal damage to any creatures. You have Viral Patriarch and Thundersword to really put on the pressure. You have Eidolon to really, as a good underdrop with Phoenix, and eventually you can just blow people out with Dragon or Phoenix level 3 if need be. And then you have Abraxas just to keep the pressure up with Karak.
Okay, so I guess my question is, are you prioritizing Abraxas, or are you just kind of playing him in certain matchups? What's going on with him?
I think he's definitely... he's played if the situation calls for him. I think it's more focused on like Oros and Phoenix and Dragon if the situation occurs, and Thundersoar. And if Abraxas is prominently needed, I'd play him.
Okay. What about Rageborn Hellion? Rageborn Hellion is one of those cards that feels like you're either prioritizing him or he's just garbage, and you just have so many cards it looks like you prioritize in this deck. I just don't quite understand how you're getting all these different cards. Like, it looks to me like Thundersoar, Hellion, Korok, Abraxas, Dragon are all cards, and really Warlord, that if you're going to play them, you have to play them. I'm just confused as to how you can build an entire deck of cards you have to prioritize. How do you do this, sir?
It's really all about like snowballing your opponent, and Rageborn is definitely one of the better cards to snowball your opponent with, because you can just get out of control really fast. That's why this deck has very few spells, because you just want to keep putting threats to the board that your opponent has to deal with, and if they can't, just snowball them.
Okay, so the thought is something like you're just playing them as you see them on level 1, whichever one sort of fits the best situation, rather than kind of playing for a late game and worrying about underdrops late. Is that the thought?
Yeah, but you have cards like Phoenix and Dragon that can take over the late game if need be.
Right. Okay. And I noticed you're running Icebound Fortitude, so what's going on there?
Fortitude's really just for blowout potential. Most of the time, you're going to be trading with your Thundersoars, so you want to Fortitude them to make sure they're going to live and get extra value out of them.
Okay, and you're not. See, one of my fears is when I play decks like this is no removal. So you have 2 Bashers and limited pump, and that's your removal. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, you have 2 Bashers, 3 Warlords, and if need be, you have the Karoks to do whatever you need them to do.
Okay, fair enough. What do you think, Hectares? Do you have any questions for this young man?
I think my question will be when he plays the Phoenix. I don't know when I would time that card for this deck.
I couldn't really hear the question.
Okay, the question was when are you playing Phoenix? It seems like a difficult card to find a good spot to play it in this deck.
I've always prioritized Phoenix as above everything else for the fact that it has mobility and can always put in damage. So it's usually always played.
Okay, so it's basically a pressure card, and you're looking to put so much pressure on in level 1 that if you see it early in level 2 as an Ash, you're just not that worried about it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And if you're a little bit behind, maybe in level 2, then you'll play the Ash to set up for level 3.
Yes.
Okay, sounds fair. And how do you think you're going to do today? Let me just rephrase that. How many games are you going to let EvilWeevil get before you beat him down?
I think it'll be really close. I think it'll be 3-2 in my favor.
Okay, that's generous of you to give him 2 games. I would only give him 1, but I'm not very generous. All right, let's get these games going. I'm excited to see them in action. I'm going to see if EvilWeevil can continue his run to glory and see how Tetrarain does with this very interesting, cool-looking deck. I got to tell you this, Tetrarain. If he, or our Hectares, if Tetrarain blows out EvilWeevil, you're just going to see this deck all over. Because it's the coolest deck ever, right? It's like, I got all my favorite cards. They're all in one deck. I don't know how I made it work, but it works. Like, it'll be the most popular deck. But it will also cause people to complain endlessly because there's so many legendaries in this deck. New players will be like, that Tetrarain deck takes 8 months to make if I'm just forging my cards. So, it's going to be interesting. And EvilWeevil, why don't you challenge Tetrarain since you are the first player? So, Tetrarain, we didn't actually do this. Who do you think is going to win this? Sorry. I meant Hectares. Who do you think is going to win this? I'm kind of all over the place here.
I think EvilWeevil will take this one. Tetrarain's list is very high risk, high reward in a lot of spots, and EvilWeevil's got the sort of consistent blowout that I think will shut down a lot of the combo that Tetrarain needs to win this one.
Okay. I hate not going against EvilWeevil because that's half the fun for me. I gotta think EvilWeevil's deck wins. EvilWeevil's deck is like the model of consistency in the environment, and Tetrarain's deck is total and complete madness. To be perfectly honest, I am rooting strongly for Tetrarain to win because I'm just eager to see this deck in action. I just don't quite see how he wins, but I'm rooting for him. That's for sure. So Tetrarain, why don't you challenge EvilWeevil? Since because he's the champ, he's just decided I'm not challenging this guy. This guy's a chump. I don't have to do the challenging. Not sure that's what he's actually saying, but I'm putting words in his mouth to make him sound like a bad guy because that's more. I
mean,
fun.
those are the perks of coming back.
Exactly. I mean, he's the villain, right? Like he's evil. He never loses. He's clearly the villainous character on this show. So we're gonna let him live up to it. Plus, his microphone even sounds evil, so he's got that going for him, which is cool. All right, that was neat. We got to see Hectare's face and big bold in case you didn't know what he looked like. Now you know. All right. So someone says if Tetrarain's deck is wrong, I don't want to be right. All right. All right. So let's see. EvilWeevil's on the play here. It's an interesting idea because you want to level Sentinels in this deck, but also interesting leveling Patriarch is nice as well. So yeah, I think I would go with Patriarch.
I think it's a tough call. He's gonna want those Sentinels leveled. I think he's gonna want to instantly take out some of the other creatures. I don't know that he needs the Patriarch leveled in this matchup, but it certainly will come in handy later. It's just a matter of when he draws it because. Tetrarain's list is very turn sensitive. You know, he could have that one turn where he puts on crazy pressure.
Right. So Tetrarain went with Thundersoar Patriarch to combat this, and it immediately put some pressure on. So what is EvilWeevil going to do? Okay, so he does attack into him. He doesn't have a lot of choices here. I think probably Gargoyle is going to be right, and then what he could have done is moved out of the way. Which would have been interesting. Could have jetpacked his Patriarch over. I'm not saying that would have been the right answer. It would have been an interesting answer. Oh, does he Icebound Fortitude here? he could Icebound Fortitude that Thundersaur and put a lot of pressure on. He's got his Dragon. I don't think he's going to play it here. Looks like he's just going to go Patriarch. And I didn't see what the other card did. Oh, Warlord, and just basically threats.
Yeah, I like the Warlord play here. It comes in handy later on with the removal element, and the fact that it gets the Patriarch buff is a big deal.
Yeah, 5/9. I mean, look, his board is kind of crazy. A 5/9, a 10/6, a 4/7. I mean, that's pretty good. What's funny is he's basically playing a Yeti deck, right? Like, he hasn't played any of the crazy cards where we're like, oh my god, he's playing all these crazy cards, and he's like, no, I just play the regular cards. I don't know what you guys were talking about. That was just in there to spice up the deck and make you think funny thoughts.
Right, yeah. Make your opponent underestimate you.
It's kind of interesting there. Evil chose to take a lot of damage there when he could have stuck the Gargoyle in front of Thundersaur and roared. And I think the thought is next turn he can draw a Sentinel, and he's really banking on that and get a big time blowout. So he's willing to take the 20 to blow out the board. What do you think? Would you do that, Hectares?
Yeah, I think he made an interesting call there. He's assessing the situation as, I'm going to be really behind unless I get a blowout. Let me do what I can to fix the board in a turn where it's more likely to happen.
Exactly, and he only saw one of his Sentinels, so the odds are reasonable. And as Tetrarain promised, he stuck down his Phoenix. He prioritized it, he put it down. But I think now we get to go something like move Gargoyle into 5, Sentinel, and I guess you Sentinel in 3. So I think you want to blow out the Phoenix. Well, I'm not really sure from there how you want to go about this. You have a bunch of options. You could go, I mean, you could even go like Matrix Warden in 1, buff himself, and then stick Sentinel in 3. I don't know. How would you go about this? There's actually a lot of choices here.
Yeah, there are quite a number of choices to look at. I think I moved Gargoyle into 5. Play the Sentinel in, I want to say, either 4 or 3, and Matrix Warden potentially as well.
I kind of think I would have Matrix Wardened in 3, and then you get to trade him off for not too much. This is really interesting. What is he doing?
He looks like he's setting up a play that keeps the most health on his Gargoyle, which is probably pretty smart.
I mean, I think he has to take out the... Okay. For a second there, I thought he wasn't moving over. I was like, that is kind of crazy.
I like this line a lot. It keeps his health on the Gargoyles very high, and will set up probably a great follow-up turn.
Yeah, certainly. And Tetrarain's reaching for Thundersaur, which is a weird play here. I mean, I guess he can put it in 2 and sort of force the Gargoyle to move over, but he's kind of hoping that his opponent doesn't get a Sentinel or a buff or something, because either way, he's probably not going to tangle with the Thundersaur. Unless, I mean, he actually can. He can go roar, blow out the Thundersaur, blow out the world. That's kind of tempting, but I think also tempting would be Nexus. Well, if he Nexus Text, though, then he has to engage that Thundersaur fully. What do you think? Would you be crazy enough to roar here?
Yeah, I would do that. I think the Nexus Tech play is the only thing that was prevented by the Thundersaur going down in 2 there. But hey, he's got a level of Nexus Tech. It could be a matter of preference. What gets comes down here. Maybe he wants to set up the Aegis Knight the follow-up turn.
Yeah, and he roared afterwards so that the Thundersaur would be less buffed. He lost a little bit of damage in the process, but I think it was well worth it. I think now is where we're seeing the problem with Tetrarain's deck. So he's got like an underleveled Hellion, which is pretty much worthless now. The Eidolon is okay, but is that really what you want to level? This game is clearly not going to be ended very soon. So the only other card he has is the Thundersaur, which is great. But again, he doesn't have a great place to put it. I guess that's a pretty good place because he'll grow and What's he going to do there? Overwrite him with something small? He could overwrite it with his own Thundersaur. Not sure that's the way to go, though.
I think Jetpack would be an interesting call to move the Nexus tech out and take out the Phoenix or something like that.
I was just about to say that. I think Jetpack is the right call. I think I go Jetpack and Roar. I either do that or I go Jetpack and then post-combat in one, put the Patriarch down. All right, so he's not going to.
Aegis Knight would be interesting here as well.
I'm kind of surprised that he's just going to let that Thundersaur grow. I feel like that's the only real threat his opponent has. So I'm a little bit surprised. I'm also kind of surprised by the Roar. I think I might have just battled and then filled that 5th lane, or lane 1, to have a full board. Well, that's kind of interesting. So his opponent again has, an underleveled Scorchmane, an underleveled Warlord, a Fortitude, Patriarch, and a Patriarch 2. So he doesn't have... these are the problems that I kind of assumed this deck was going to face, of just these really weird hands. And so he's just going to throw down the dragon and buff it and hope to make it to level 2 sort of intact. So we'll see if he can pull that off.
This looks like Sentinel Gargoyle to me. Sentinel in 3.
Yeah, I think so. 'Cause it also absorbs quite a bit of damage.
Yeah.
And the Gargoyle 2 is just so obvious. There's never been a more obvious play. I mean, Gargoyle 2 is just insane. If your opponent isn't playing Crushes and you have Gargoyles in your deck, you're playing them almost certainly.
I wonder if Tetrarain's matchups would be, against Alolan decks would be a lot easier with just throwing a Crush or 2 into his deck.
I like one Crush. If I run Tempe's, I want to run a Crush, and the reason is twofold. First, when your opponent sees the Crush, they freak out and they get away from their main game plan. Now, if it works the opposite and your opponent doesn't see the Crush, well, that's a win as well, because then you get to surprise them and knock out like a level 2 or even a level 3 with a Crush and just completely devastate them. So either way, I'm a pretty big fan of the Crush. I'm not sure what happened on Tetrarain's side. Okay, there we go. It took a while for the cards to actually come down. So he's playing a lot of Thundersaurs. They're basically coming in droves for him. But we got another Sentinel blowout. Boom, boom, boom. I think I would go Sentinel, battle, overwrite the Sentinel with the Gargoyle, and just laugh at his poor, lonely Thundersaur. Yeah, it looks like EvilWeevil's going to do exactly that. That poor Thundersaur.
Sentinel blowout, still kicking it.
Oh my goodness. Senior Blowout is still in his heyday. He's like 112, and he's like, son, let me tell you how it used to be, because it still is that way. We're on set 47, and Sentinel Blowout is still the best thing in the game. I don't know. Yeah, I gotta think by set 47 it won't be as good.
Robots.
All right.
Well,
so...
I don't know. I would expect to see some robot hate cards come out by set 47.
I hope not. I love robots.
That's game.
That's it. EvilWeevil, boom, taking the first game, just like that, and then showing us Hectare's face, just because he wants to. He's got all the power. He is EvilWeevil. He does whatever he wants. He's gonna open some chests now. All right. He even earned a pack from that. Let's see what he gets. 30 silver. Boom. Look at that. I keep getting all these messages. All right. Let's do this thing. EvilWeevil. Can he take game 2? Boom, boom, boom,
so what does Tetrarain do differently here?
I don't know. That is exactly how I thought that would go. That's the problem. My problem is I see his deck is the level 2. Level 1 is great. But if he can't pull away level 1, he's left with a terrible level 2. And I don't see how he wins with that level 2. So he is taking a new direction, just saying, you know what? I'm not going to win in level 1. I'm playing for level 2. And I think it's good to try that at least. I'm not sure how it'll work, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I think I deprioritize Thundersaur. I think EvilWeevil can play around it too easily with his combination of blowout potential and mobility. And so I think what I do instead of Thundersaur is play the Koroks down and go for an interesting combination of pushing damage before the combos can come online, or before other cards can be moved around.
I feel like Korok is so dangerous, though, because it gives you more turns to find your combo, right? The big things when you're playing AU is getting the Sentinel and the Gargoyles and stuff when they're not active and going, oh, no, this is terrible. Whereas Korok is like, hey, I'm always active. Anytime you draw it, I'm here to be blown out. And that worries me a bit. Maybe it's not worth worrying about, but it does worry me a bit. Yeah, I would definitely move him out of the way. I think I might play Thundersaur in 5, since he doesn't have another great card, in my opinion. I mean, obviously you play Gargoyle. But other than that, I think I liked Thundersaur in 5. I mean, I like Patriarch just as a play. I think it sets you up for a decent level 2. I'm not sure I like Thundersaur in the middle lane, though. What do you think about that, Terrence?
Well, I mean, he takes away an option of having the Nexus tech come down.
Yeah, I don't like that. I think I would have liked Thundersaur in 5, and if you were worried about the Gargoyle, you could always hide him in 1. Ooh, the Warlord blowout followed by the Roar. He's saying, I got blowouts. You got blowouts? I got bigger blowouts. All right, so probably that plus Patriarch in 5 looks pretty strong. I think I would move the Gargoyle. I don't think I'd just let him go. Yeah, well, that looks good. You can always swing back with a Sentinel and a Roar or something and blow out that Warlord.
EvilWeevil's Thundersaurs can do so much more in this matchup than Tetrarain's, I think. The fact that they can grow along with the Roars he's already trying to play, versus Tetrarain having to continuously play creatures that need to be leveled, I think makes a big difference.
I also think it's going to be really hard for Tetrarain to remove him. He doesn't have removal. Warlord is terrible removal against Thundersaur. It just grows him. He doesn't have huge underdrops to take him down. I think Thundersaurs could really dominate against Tetrarain. I know that's been one of my big problems whenever I play Tempe's, is basically Thundersaur, and that's why I almost always play it with Necreum, because it's such a pain.
Yeah, I think the only card that's recently done anything against Thundersaur for Tempest is the Flamebreak Frozen Solid combo.
Yep, and I really like that, but it's hard to shoehorn that into every deck that you're building.
Yeah.
All right, so he goes for the blowout, and all right, so he decides to just play the Patriarch, buff his Thundersaur. Seems reasonable. I feel like playing a Sentinel to the board could have also been reasonable, get it leveled, but probably buffing the Thundersaur is better, especially since we were just talking about how great it is. All right, so he's got to play the Scorchmane. He just has to. He can't actually kill anything outright with the damage, which is unfortunate. The question is, do you stick it in front of Thundersaur, knowing that you can now kill him? Yeah, I think you have to. Takes a lot of damage, but I think it's worth it. And okay, so he's got a Thundersaur. He's thinking about... I think I would think about the Ash here, just to get to a real solid player level 3. Like you said, I don't feel like Thundersaur is that great against his deck. And we see right here, he can just go like Matrix Warden, Roar if he wants, and just immediately handle that Thundersaur before it even gets going. And it sets him up to have a really good board. I think that's what I'd do. I think I would Matrix Warden in 3, hit the Gargoyle, and then Roar. What about you, Hectares? What would you do here?
Yeah, I like that line. Getting rid of the Thundersaur for free sounds really good to me. Everything else is sort of putting yourself at risk for your opponent to play around, and that takes away options that they would otherwise have.
Mm-hmm. It looks like that's not a line he really wants to play. He was grabbing the Aegis Knight, which is interesting.
And he can handle the Warlord damage without question. It's not going to do it.
Yeah, the Warlord isn't scary at all. I'd be perfectly happy ignoring him for a while. Yeah, so I feel like, again, he's got a really strong board, and we're sort of moving forward, and then the question is, will Tetrarain be able to hang around with his deck? I mean, he's got underleveled Scorchmane, underleveled Basher, underleveled Oros. All these are must-level cards. He basically just has a Warlord 2, which is great. And he'll let him kill the Sentinel if he wants. But, I don't know. It's not that great.
What could happen here is Tetrarain, if he makes it to player level 3, and sees an early dragon, he could clean up what might be the end of a couple gargoyles and suddenly be sort of in good position to start building his own board.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he has, by playing the way he's played, I feel like he's set himself up for the possibility of a good level 3. And I think that's why I would have played the Ash on that one turn, because it feels like that's all he has, is that the possibility of a really power spiky 3.1 or 3.2 to kind of take it back over before EvilWeevil can completely put it away. And he's got some decent stuff here. He can go Patriarch to buff his Warlord. He could Roar too, but he's left with exactly what I was talking about. He's got underleveled Hellion, underleveled Abraxas, and an Eidolon. And it just feels like every turn he's got like 2 cards worth playing and 3 garbage cards. And it's just so hard to play a deck like that. Eidolon's decent here because he could stick him in front of Matrix Ward and pick him up. That's what he's going to do. But still, it's just, I don't know. It feels bad.
I think the Eidolons are better than in this deck than they might be considered based on what we've seen here. The 1/1 token ends up doing a lot of work when the follow-up play is something like Patriarch or Roar. And
Sure.
It's surprising how often that combo comes together.
True. And also with how much movement EvilWeevil wants to do, just having clogging lanes like that makes it a little bit harder for him to kind of slide by and punch through a little bit of damage.
Yeah, even if it doesn't kill any creatures, at least it acts as a gain, 17 health, for example, in this case, might be the benefit, because the token doesn't become active on his turn. It becomes active the following turn,
right,
just based on the timing of the proc. So it's actually a pretty neat card.
Yep. All right, so here we go. Tetrarain again with one of these hands. Underleveled Hellion, underleveled Thundersaur, who can be good, but not really great here. The Eidolon does kill the Thundersaur, which is good, but I mean, he takes 18 to do it. And then he Warlords. So I mean, he's kind of cleaned up the board. So, like you said, if he can really power spike in 3.1, he could be okay if he can live to 3.1.
It'll be close.
Alright, so he makes it to 3.1, maybe. A jetpack wins. You see, he doesn't have a jetpack, but he's got... I mean, talk about spiky 3.1. Holy majoli. That's just brutal. And that's going to almost certainly be game. Well, not almost certainly. It is game. He's got 4 lanes, each of them with lethal. That will do it. And Tetrarain will concede the match. Well, not the match, the game. Alright. So that's 2-0 for the People's Champ? I don't know. He's not my champ. He's just some evil dude that we let on because he wins.
The guy who refuses to leave.
I root against him so hard every week. I mean, the guy has the chutzpah to bring the exact same deck on the Forge and just dare people to beat him.
This is a tough list to beat. This is a good list to measure your own deck against.
Certainly. I really think of it as the model of consistency. And if you know me at all, you know I'll take consistency over power spike just about any day of the week. Alright, so he's going to do the dragon. I mean, I think normally the right place to discard it there, except for his opponent knows his deck. So in this spot, I would play it to the board just to clog up the board a little bit. But would you normally discard that if you were just like in a constructed queue?
Yeah, this is a metagame call. So if you're seeing more of zombies, you can't play it to the board.
See,
it's just
I don't even think it's a metagame call. I think it's a completely screw with your opponent call. They have no idea what they're doing. Now if they're playing gargoyles, they're like, do I play a gargoyle? He just discarded a card. Maybe it's a dragon. It could be in a Yeti deck. It
the
could
thing
be
is,
something.
In a Tarsus heavy meta, it ends up being potentially what saves you from getting just completely destroyed by Varnapact.
Yeah, that's true. I so love discarding it, though. I like to keep my opponent on their heels a bit.
I have to assume if my opponent turn 1 discards that it's going to be a dragon.
I mean, I make
there's
the
no
same
other card that
assumption,
comes to mind.
but you never know. It could be
You
something
don't.
else.
You don't ever know. Yeah, hopefully that slot changes. Maybe there's another card that has that power level and that need to be disguised. I like that. I like that element to the game.
All right. So Tetrarain has said, we're going all in on player level 2 and 3 now. I mean, if he can get away with this, last time he tried and he didn't get away with it. He got beat, right as 3-1 started. So we'll see if this greediness can get away with it. I'm rooting for it because I like greedy plays. I mean, my nickname's Greedy Grimes for a reason. I love the greedy plays. All right, so what does he do here? Okay, so he just goes kind of obvious. Thundersoar, Patriarch. Okay, I got good cards on the board. What are you going to do?
Yeah, what does he do against that Thundersoar?
He doesn't have an answer that I'm aware of, and that's the problem with Tempe's. That's why I really had trouble with Tempe. I mean, Thundersoar in front of Thundersoar is probably his best option. Is he going to Abraxas? We're finally going to see Abraxas. See, the problem here is I don't think he wants to Abraxas here. I think he's stuck with Abraxas. I think the rest of his hand just was full of cards he didn't want to play.
I think he still has one more Phoenix, right?
I don't think so.
Well, I was going to say they could take out the Thundersoar with the Abraxas proc, but unfortunately, it's been buffed already.
Yep. So we'll see. Eidolon, he's going to drop, I guess, in front. Oh, I thought he might do it in front of Sentinel to just take him out.
So he did set up that play, which was very, very smart of him to put the Abraxas in 3.
Definitely. But it didn't. It's one of those things of how much does that really accomplish for you? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it helps him to stay in it until he draws dragons. I mean, he's now got 2 dragons choosing the deck, which probably could win him this match. If he sees them on time, he's in it.
Yeah, but this is, this is the problem with this AU deck, is it just has so much combo blowout potential that things really have to go well for you. They repeatedly have to miss is one of the problems.
Exactly. That's how I feel when I play against this deck. I'm like, please don't have these combos. Please don't have these combos.
And they always do. Like, if you play Turkus, he's got him every time.
Yeah, Turkus.
The creator of the deck is allowed to have him every time whenever he wants. He's got a special hack, the Turkus hack.
Well, imagine how popular this deck would be if Turkus could have continued on in the Golden Gauntlet with it.
Oh, yeah, it's true. It is interesting how that works because he had to leave. People were like, oh, that deck didn't do anything.
Yeah, it sort of snuck under the radar for a little while, and now is picking up steam.
All right, so we are seeing the Dragon and an Abraxas too. So he is going all in. I don't understand why he put Abraxas there, though. That seems like an odd choice. Because now it just dies to Gargoyle. And most likely dies to Gargoyle without anything happening.
I guess he could have been trying to set up a Warlord 2 play or something like that.
I don't know, I guess. I mean, maybe he didn't want to lose the Dragon. I don't quite get it. That seems like an odd play to me. He's got the Warlord 2, so that's good. He will be able to blow stuff out. I mean, he's actually in this game because he's not. The health total is fairly irrelevant. He's going to have Dragon 3 in his deck. It's a shame he couldn't get that Phoenix Ash to the board somehow. But the Dragon 2 will blow out the Gargoyle, so that's good. But he does have to deal with that Thundersoar, and like we were saying, how the heck do you deal with a Thundersoar with this deck? To me, it's the great weakness of this deck is that it really just doesn't have a Thundersoar answer.
Yeah, I wonder if he has a way of removing his own creatures available in Tempest. I can't think of one. Maybe he wants Krogius in this deck. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Maybe that's what he needs. No, as a way as his answer to Thundersoar.
All right, let's see. So he's got Patriarch, which is great. Oh, you just mean to override cats?
Yes, to remove
oh
his
my god!
Sitting in front of Thundersoar.
Stop talking crazy, Hectares. We don't play bad cards just so we can overwrite with them.
That might be the answer. I don't know.
The problem is you have to find it at the perfect moment, right? Because if even one turn goes by and now he's a 7 whatever, now you're still screwed.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a worse color or something.
Yeah.
Another dragon. All right. I mean, now things are heating up a little bit. He might have a shot here. If only there wasn't a Thundersaur on the board. So it looks like he's going to have to probably just... What, is he going to have to throw away the dragon to the Thundersaur? That's kind of sad. Yeah,
I'm sure, and I think he's happy to do that. Taking 7 damage here instead of 40 next turn or something like that.
Instead of 1,000,000, he only took 7. That does seem good.
Yeah.
Alright, so we're at the very end of level 2, so that should really factor into what EvilWeevil does. He's only at 51 health. I'm not sure a Warmonger mod does quite enough here. Blockade plus Aegis Knight is pretty interesting. He could blow out that Warlord. But then he'd have a Blockade in lane 3. Is that really what he wants?
I kind of like that. He won't mind overwriting it. It just gets rid of the Warlord and opens up the lane later on.
Mm-hmm. It seems reasonable.
He'll have to overwrite it. I don't think he will jetpack it or anything like that. But, I mean, that is an out.
I mean, basically that hand showed you the weakness of his deck, right? In that, by putting in these answers, he occasionally will have these hands that are not that great. Because he doesn't want to play a Justicar here. He doesn't want to play a Basher. He doesn't want to play Warmonger mod. They're all utility cards, and so he only has 2 actual cards to choose from. It's very much like some of those hands we've been seeing from Tetrarain, where he's got 5 cards in hand, but really only 2 of them can be played.
I would move. I would do this play that Weevil settled on. Move the Aegis Knight. Move the Gargoyle into 1. Mm-hmm. And actually, I also would have moved the Gargoyle over to 5 and left creature active. No need to take damage on the Gargoyle.
Yep, I was thinking the same thing. You can always move him back next turn, post combat with armor, and he soaks it all up.
Yeah, exactly.
And now, in fact, does it leave him vulnerable? Almost vulnerable to that Warlord, but not quite. So he needed a big 3.1, and he didn't get it. Right, like we were kind of all hoping, okay, he's going to put it together here, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and he maybe has an extra turn because of the block that EvilWeevil made with the Gargoyle. But other than that, he's pretty close to dead here.
Yeah, he's in some serious trouble. I mean, you could jetpack here. Is it worth it to go jetpack, roar? You push through. Let's see. I won't do the math. So 18. Yeah, it seems pretty solid. So again, he needs a big turn here. And he's got some level 3s, but they're not that useful. A Thundersaur running into nothing doesn't do that much. If a Thundersaur falls in the woods and there's no one around, he's still 0 strength. Or attack, or whatever we call it.
I think the Thundersaur is too big of a liability in this matchup for Tetrarain. He needed to prioritize other cards.
Yeah, I think so as well. It's hard to get away from him. Oh my goodness. Can Tetrarain live a turn? This will be interesting. So he's taking 18, 21, 24 from that. So it looks like he will live one more turn at 1 health. 1 health. And it's not going to be enough. The Double Dragon 3 won't even be enough. That's pretty sad when a Double Dragon 3 is not enough. That's when you know you got a little bit behind in the game.
Yeah, he needed that 3.1.
Yeah. It was close. It made it interesting. But a loss. That's it. That's it. The champion remains champion. The evilest one stays around. Thank you for coming by, Tetrarain. Good showing. But here we go. Champ back for another week, perhaps, on the Forge. All right, champ. What happened there, man? Oh, I don't know if you can hear us, actually. He says, can we Skype for this? So, yeah, we'll Skype for this. Let's find him on Skype. What does he come up on? Oh, maybe he's not on Skype right now. Where is he? There he is. He's offline. So he says, hey, can we Skype for this? And then he's offline. Well played, sir. Well played. So what did you... Is this basically what you thought was going to happen, Hectares?
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where you have a deck that's extremely consistent versus a deck that has potential to be good occasionally, and just in that matchup, the consistent deck is going to win.
Yeah, usually. Unless the other person can just really put something together. And I mean, he really needed to have a crazy 3.1, like a double Dragon 3 on 3.1.
Building the board against the Aegis Knight deck is very challenging, and not being able to do it and not being able to stop your opponent from building a board is just a death sentence.
Yeah. All right, EvilWeevil. Tell us how great you are. What is this, like your 70th time as champion of the Forge?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So are you going to get fired from your job by having to just take off every Tuesday? Like, that's your new thing?
I think I might have to miss the Forge next Tuesday, I'm going to be honest.
What? Just quit that job, man. You don't need to work. You're the Forge champion. We'll just give you gold. That will sustain you.
It's doing a good job, I gotta say. I don't know if you saw on my screen, but I have 8,000 gold stocked up. So.
Woo! Just use that to buy cheese, and you're in business. All right. So, did you have a game plan going in, and did you execute it, or did you have to adjust on the fly for what your opponent was doing?
My game plan was he has no removal and no pump. So if I gain board control, he has no way to swing it back, basically. So my game plan is just play guard and grow it, basically. Or, I mean, Thundersoar worked in game 2 as well. Like, just get board control, and then you just start growing your guys like crazy, basically. That's, like, that's my ideal matchup, I think.
Yep, I would agree with that. As soon as I saw his list and I saw no removal, I was like, I wonder if EvilWeevil is going to shift to Thundersoars and just jam Thundersoars down his throat and say, how are you going to take these out, sir?
Yeah. No, and, like, I had a couple of places, like, I was thinking about, there were a couple times where I was thinking about whether I move Gargoyle into an empty lane or kill his guys, and more often than not, I was just moving them to the empty lane just to keep them alive as long as possible, because he just can't deal with them. And the longer they sit on the board, they just pick up more and more roars. I mean, you were seeing level 1 gargoyles with like 15 attack.
Yep, that looked like pretty much a clinic in how to play that deck quite well. You had a couple plays where Hectares and I were a little bit baffled. Like, you had that one play, you might not remember it, where you could have put a Thundersoar in 5 or 3, and you put it in 3. My guess is that you played the other guy in 5, and then went, oh, I think I probably should play Thundersoar after all, and stuck him in 3. Is that kind of what happened there?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I honestly, I don't think I played perfectly, but that was definitely what happened there. And sometimes I'll make a mistake, and then I'll then not play the Thundersoar there because, you know, it's not the best situation, and it's like kind of embarrassing that I made the wrong play. But I think the best way to do is just I realized I made a mistake and said, well, Thundersoar in this lane is still better than not playing Thundersoar at all.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I've done the same thing. It's the problem of you have your turn planned out, and then you play the first half of it, and then you go, wait, what was I thinking? I just realized he can't handle Thundersoar. I have to play Thundersoar. And then you're like, oh, now I look like a moron. That happens to me. Occasionally. I mean, you might have seen me do that on stream. I don't know. I make mistakes occasionally, so we'll let that one slide.
All right. No, I don't think I played perfectly. I think I was playing a little fast, actually.
Yeah, you were. I was surprised.
Yeah, maybe partially because of last week. I was also lagging a lot. So, I'm sorry about all the technical difficulties, but so I was just slightly worried about time. So
yeah, no, it was totally fine. So congratulations on winning yet another episode of The Forge, and if you're able to come back next week, that's great. If not, that just means the hill is open for a week, waiting for EvilWeevil to declare that he's back, he's quit his job, and he's ready to be a full-time forger. So thanks for coming on again. Thank you, Tetrarain, for coming on with your very interesting, innovative, kind of crazy deck that I feel like hit a really tough matchup. EvilWeevil's deck just demands that you have some sort of removal. If you don't, it's going to be an uphill slog. So come again next week, where 2 will enter, 1 will leave champion, and 1 will have beaten battered and bruised.